All right, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming to our Back to Basics training for tonight. I'm Carla Italiano, and tonight we're going to talk about finding your why. It is September 14th, 2020, by the way, and I just so want to honor you and thank you and recognize you for showing up. Whether you're here live tonight or you're watching this on replay, you are investing time in yourself to grow yourself and your business. Our time is valuable. It's something that we get once, so the places that we spend it are truly important to pay attention to, and so I so appreciate you tuning in tonight to invest in yourself. I'm here in Savannah, Georgia. We'd love for you to message in the chat, where are you watching from? I'm in Savannah, Georgia. By the way, I grew up in Iowa. I moved in junior high to Illinois. That's where most of my family still is. I went to college in Missouri, and I got my first job in Texas. I met my husband there. I met Alexandra there. Some of you are on here from there, around the world, and then ended up here in Savannah, Georgia. So love that you guys are tuning in from around the world. So tonight we're going to talk about our why. I'd love to start with just a question. And I'm wondering if any of you feel like you've gotten a bit of a slow start to your Isagenix business. Just type in yes in the chat if you feel like you've gotten a bit slower start. Like it seems like maybe everyone else is somehow like rank advancing faster, like feel like somehow you're just like not catching on, or you're doing the work but it's not working, or you're just not sure what's happening. I see the yeses. That's awesome. Well, I am so glad, because that I can totally relate to that. And so tonight is especially for you, or for team members you might have who feel that way, because this presentation tonight will hopefully encourage you and give you a bit of a nudge. And from my experience, if you feel this way, if you feel a little bit stuck, or that things are slow, or when they are stuck and slow, because it might come and go in seasons, it could be at a time when you're not 100% clear on your why. There we go. And not just finding the why, but truly clarifying the why, committing to your why, and believing in your why. Okay, so the reason why this is so important is because of these. The reason why clarifying your why is so important because of these, right? We talk about the why all the time in personal development, in all our Isagenix events, but why do we talk about the why? It's because of obstacles. And check out this definition. An obstacle is a thing that blocks one's way or prevents or hinders progress, right? What would you consider an obstacle? Love you for chat, type in the chat. What are some obstacles maybe that you faced, or that you've had a team member face, or that you think you're gonna face? What are some obstacles that you face in your business that prevent or hinder progress? We'd love to see you right in the chat. And by the way, I see everybody from Australia, St. Louis, Wisconsin, love that. So a lot of things that people identify as obstacles might be, lack of time, you feel too busy, or people saying no, or fear, self-doubt. Oh yeah, these are awesome. These are all definitely obstacles. Those feelings, those emotions that we have, situations in our life, busyness, the time, absolutely, these are obstacles. Challenges, a lot of these things that you're listing that we're talking about are challenges in our life, can be obstacles. Let me ask you something though. Is it possible that good things in our life can be obstacles, things that prevent or hinder progress? What about comfort? Could comfort in your life prevent or hinder progress? What about success, right? So what we're discovering here, right, is that both good things and challenges can be obstacles. And a lot of times we get into our mind like, oh, if only I could get rid of that obstacle, then I could grow my business. So whatever we think of as an obstacle, we want to get rid of it. But in reality, if both good things and challenges in our life can be obstacles, is it possible that those good things and those challenges in our life could actually also be the things that help us along? In reality, it's simply the story that we're telling ourselves about the things in our life that make them obstacles. Would you agree? I mean, I believe it's true, because it's said that the only difference between stumbling blocks and stepping stones is the way that you use them. So what about instead of focusing on getting rid of those obstacles, we just learned how other leaders who have faced the exact same thing. That's something that I realized early on. There's no challenge that you're facing, no obstacle that you're facing that somebody else in this company has not already faced and risen to success. So it's just simply a matter of changing that story, right? Who would be open to learning today how to turn more of your obstacles into stepping stones, right? Yes, in the chat, if you are here to learn that. Awesome, I see the yeses, great. This is so important because an obstacle is only gonna hinder you if you make that story about it bigger than your why. And this is something in my own journey that I can acknowledge is true and I can relate to a lot, because for a very long time, my story in my head was a lot bigger than my why. Some of you know my story and many of you don't, but I started using the products over 12 years ago, almost 13 years now. And I love them, right? I love the products, but I resisted the business for 6 years because my story was a lot bigger than my why. See, I was an engineer years ago, and I left that career to do another business full-time on the side. It was with a different company, and it was a network marketing home business, and I loved it. I loved the community. I loved the opportunity. I loved the chance for financial freedom, the personal development, and the chance to make extra money. But in reality, it was a little bit different compensation plan, slightly outdated, but I didn't know any better. And I just, I never reached the level of success that I really wanted. What that did is it crushed my confidence. It crushed my confidence. Like, I believed in network marketing. I saw the potential. I knew that it could work. I just didn't believe that it would work for me. Can anyone relate to that? Type yes in the comments. I believed in the vehicle. I just didn't believe it would work for me. And that story, right? That was story, right? Thanks for writing. That story was a lot bigger than my why, until my why grew. I'd like to introduce you to my family. My husband, Pasquale, who I love very much. So we have 3 beautiful, amazing girls, 2 twins, Clara and Gloria. They're now 9 years old, and big sister, Louisa, who is 11. And these pictures are a little bit outdated, but there was something significant that happened in our life around this time when they were this age that I'll share with you a little bit later. So I want you to grab this visual of them. But it was about 7 years ago that they were all school-aged at the same time and entering school. We found an amazing private Christian school that we love for them. But what does private school usually mean? Money, right? And I'd never gone back to my engineering career, and I'd let that other business go. And my husband makes a great income at his job, but what we realized was that his income would likely not increase as fast as their tuition costs were going to increase year by year. And so we were stuck in this place wondering how long we could afford to send them to this school. And that didn't sit okay with me. I didn't like feeling stuck and confined. Are you noticing a theme? Stuck. Stuck is not a feeling I enjoy. But I did not like feeling stuck in compromising our choices around their experiences or their education. Right? I'm like, this is not okay for somebody else in an office building to determine what salary is gonna determine the education for my kids, right? And so even though I had been so heartbroken and hurt by this profession before, and I lost my confidence, I'd seen the potential, and I knew that this was a vehicle that could be the answer that we were looking for. And so with Isagenix, I went to my first Isagenix event to check it out, and it was University in Action with David Wood. And it was at that event that I grew my belief again. I saw lots of leaders on stage, including Hillary Courtney, who's one of the main hosts, who's our Upline Millionaire. And I saw her and so many other leaders making a significant income in an authentic way. And that led me to grow my confidence and to believe that I could do it too. Because what I especially noted was that even though they were all different personalities and all different backgrounds and education levels and everything like that, what they had in common was this posture and ease and openness and calmness and authenticity. And they weren't being pushy or salesy at all. And I expected to go to that event to learn how to be pushy and salesy and just be okay with it. Has anyone ever had that thought before? Right? That's the expectation I went with. But when I saw these people, I'm like, wait, they're not like that at all. Maybe it's just a matter of growing myself. And I saw them at a higher level of consciousness and awareness and personal development. So I thought maybe, just maybe, if I could grow myself into that most bold, fearless, energetic version of myself, then I could create this level of success as well. And that's when things became clear for me. Like in that moment, it's not that my stories went away. It's not that my fears went away. It's just that my why got more clear. My why became more than to pay for private school. My why became to grow into the person who could grow the business that would pay for private school. And that is powerful. And that would be my vision for each of you, to set a goal so big that you can't achieve it until you grow into the person who can, because that is the true reward. And that is your best, most amazing gift to your family and to the world, for you to show up as the best person, the best version of yourself with all your unique personality and everything, but the best version with, and letting go of all those stories that hinder you. And this network marketing vehicle is the way to do it. So I left that event with some big goals. And one of them was to grow myself, but I knew it was going to take action to do that. And so I left that event with the goal to achieve executive in 30 days, right? There were, all the people on stage were doing it. I'm willing to work hard. I can do that. So I left there and I got to work and I started to make a list and call the people. And in my first 30 days, I called my first 30 people. I made a list to 100, right? That's a great first step. And my goal had been to reach all of them, but I ran out of time because it was taking me an hour to make each call. Not because I was on the phone for an hour, but because I was preparing and working up the courage for an hour before each one, okay? But I did it, right? And that's the point, because I was growing. I just knew I had to keep going. And from those first 30 reaches, you guys, 29 said no or ignored me. One did say yes, and that one returned her products. And that was my start. But my why was bigger than this. So I decided to keep going. And it was a few months later, I found myself at my second Isagenix event, and also on the way back, that I got up the nerve to talk to strangers about Isagenix. So I'm in the airport waiting to board the plane to come home. And I turned to the gentleman next to me and I struck up a conversation. I started telling about Isagenix. He looked at me kind of weird and he stood up and he literally walked away and sat in a different chair. Okay. Am I giving you hope? Am I giving anyone hope on here? Like, that was my start. Type yes in the comments if this is giving you hope, because it doesn't matter where you start. It just matters your why and your clarity of your vision to keep going. Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Thanks so much. So when that guy walked away, do you see how that could have very easily and logically been the end of my journey? That would have made sense. You know why, though? You know why that would have been the end? Because that experience fit my stories. Maybe some of the stories that you have in your head. You see, I am bothering people. You see, they're literally running away. Do you see, I can't do this very well. I am not connecting. This is not working for me. This is just not happening, right? Logical conclusions from that experience that just happened, right? And all, you know, and like I said, as logical as it could have been, all I can say is that my courage to continue going from that point was simply from believing that that person that I was growing into was more important than the fear that I had, right? Again, we all have the fear. It's not that my fear went away. It's just my belief that that person I was growing into is more important than my fear. So I kept going. I kept going. It would have been really easy at that point to say, you know what? There's other great schools in our area that are good enough for our girls, which is true. There are great schools. I'm gonna say, you know what? My husband makes a good enough income. I'm happy enough. We have a nice house. We're doing well. Life is good enough. But good enough wasn't cutting it for me anymore. Good enough for me as a potential as a person was not cutting it. Cutting myself short, always wondering the what if I'd really gone for this? What if I'd continued to grow myself? That wasn't cutting it anymore. So I kept going. kept going, kept falling down, getting back up, correcting myself, showing up for these trainings, showing up for the events, going to everything, learning, hungry to learn from anyone who's putting information out. After a while, it started to get a little bit easier. And 1 year later, I hit manager, which, as you know, is just the next step. It's not even executive yet. But I do remember a win around that time was writing a check for the monthly tuition for my girls and realizing that my commission for the week from Isagenix had covered that entire month. That was big. And but you remember my goal was executive in 30 days, right? I didn't stop. And I got there 20 months later. And I kept going and repeat, share with people, help them get two, share with people, help them get two. And eventually I not only hit executive, kept going, but more than replaced my engineering income. I pay for their school from like 1 month's commission from Isagenix now for their whole annual tuition. Like, it's such a gift. And we have more choices for our family, the thing I set out to do, all because I clarified my why. All because that's the first step. I'd love for you to reflect on this a little bit. If you're open to, type in the chat, maybe some words or descriptions that come to mind when you think of the best version of yourself. If you think of the best version of yourself, walking into the room, meeting a new group of people, coming to the next Isagenix event, showing up on a Zoom, like, what does that version of yourself look like? Or what are some words that describe that version of yourself? Oh, I love that. Positive, that's a great one. Positive, energetic, open, a friend to everybody. These are things that come to my mind. Is that brilliant? Love that. Confident. Yes. Empowering. Oh, I love these. Oh, energized. These are great. Keep those going. Those are the version of yourself that is clarified in your why. As you're thinking of that, also be mindful of any stories that might be coming into mind. Like, oh, if I was like that, people would think I was weird. That's a story. That's a story. So bring awareness to it and shut it down. Love it. Balance, kind, caring, hope. Love it. Thanks for sharing, guys. Keep that going if you like. Next is to commit to your why. You know, if you talk to any leaders, any top leaders who've you know, done really well, or even a lot of our maybe yourself, whatever level you've achieved, you're not going to find people who came into this and we're going to give it a try, right? You're not going to come in here and see how this works. No. Like myself, anyone who's gone to executive, like we heard Kristen and our team share the other night, like, it's a decision to do this and to go for a why and to truly commit to your why. All that a commitment is a decision. And the reason is that important is because how you respond to those obstacles we talked about earlier is going to be a direct reflection of how committed you are to your why. Because think about it. If you are still in decision mode, if you have not yet committed, you have not yet made a decision, the jury's still out, right? You're still deciding, am I going to go for this? Am I not going to go for this? And the more you stay in this limbo, the more you're going to take in your emotions and your circumstances and experiences as evidence to help you make your decision as to whether or not it's going to work, right? Where once you make the commitment and the decision, those are no longer pieces of evidence. They're just things that happen along the way. You've made the decision to go for it no matter what. Do you see how if you go back and forth, think this way? This is what a lack of commitment looks like, right? Like somebody enrolls in your business. Like, yeah, this is so exciting. I'm going to executive. I'm all in, right? Somebody says no. Oh, well, shoot, this is not as easy as I thought. I'm not so sure I can do this. Right? Somebody rank advances in your team, like, oh my gosh, it's happening. We got momentum. This is happening. And then somebody returns their products. Oh, well, maybe this just isn't for me, right? Back and forth. Anyone else feel like that? Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. That can happen so much. Thank you guys for sharing. Absolutely. But what if instead of that back and forth and taking in evidence as to whether or not it's going to work, you just decided and put all that energy in one direction? That would be cool. Well, you know what? It's really fascinating. There's actually a study that was done that gives us some insight into this. What would happen if we just did that, put all our energy into one direction? It was a study at NYU. And what they did is they took a group of people of varying levels of athletic ability, and they give them all the same objective. Get from here to the other side of the street, down the street to the finish line as fast as you can, okay? They split them into 2 groups. To one group, they said, focus on the finish line. Imagine there's a spotlight on it and everything around it is blurry, okay? To the other group, they said, focus on the finish line, but also pay attention to everything else around you. Like notice the car, the dog, the bench, the trees, the wind, everything else happening, right? You can imagine which team achieved the goal faster, right? Group A, the spotlight group, or group B, the other group? What do you think, A or B? Type it in. A. Yes, absolutely. In fact, they reached it 23% faster. But here's the fascinating thing about this, is that before they even began the task, Group A, the spotlight group, who was told to focus on that finish line, perceived it to be 30% closer. Also, after they achieved the goal, and Group A did get there faster, implying that they were working harder, right? If you get there faster, you're working harder. That group perceived the work to be 17% easier. So is it possible that when you focus on the goal, it looks and feels easier, even though you're working harder? Yeah, let me say it again. When you are focused and committed, achieving the goal looks and feels easier, even though you're working harder, right? This is so true. I mean, I have people ask me occasionally, like, how do you stay up so late? How do you talk to so many people? How do you do all the things that you do, right? Some of you may have had people ask that too. And yes, it is work. But with that question, they seem to imply some sort of, agony or, oh my gosh. But here's the thing, when you commit to a goal, it's just what you do. And yeah, it's work, but it's just part of the game. And it's not the agony. It's not like a decision of whether or not to do it. It's just part of the process, whatever it takes to get there, right? Because when you decide, your habits change, right? You know this already from using the products, right? Because when you go first, it also helps your team. Like you've seen this already, right? Because when you drink a shake every day, maybe those of you who have shared with people at the office, when your team member starts drinking shakes and everyone else is going out for lunch, they feel a little bit awkward that they're the only one drinking a shake. They're not going to use that as a reason to quit because they've already seen you do it, right? The uncommon things. When you commit to something, your habits change. So when you have a team member whose family's questioning, like, why don't they watch TV as much anymore? Or why don't they, play games as much as they used to? Or, like, why is there some habit in their life that has shifted? They're not going to use that as a reason to quit because you've done the uncommon thing already and led the way as a leader for them, right? That's what changed. And so when you commit to your why and you commit to those habits, that gives permission for others to do the same thing. I mean, even look in our own team, like Hillary Courtney, who's our Upline Millionaire, who's the host of this call, right? Like she did the uncommon thing. Like she was successful in another company, and then that one dissolved away. And so when she decided to go back to come to Isagenix, that was uncommon. You were like, well, why don't you go get a real job? Or why would you do that again when, you got burned the first time? But she did it anyway. And that gave permission for, Robin Dunda and Joanne Blackman, all our amazing uplines, who shared with Terry Bernier, who's my sponsor. And Terry Bernier, she was in another company and she sent her products back for that company to do this one. And that seemed kind of odd to me because she's been doing well, but because she did the uncommon things, that gave me, permission and the idea to step into this big, right? And you might know, I share with another executive on our team, Christy Ellsworth, and she built out in Alaska, like with no cell phone. That's kind of strange thing, but she did it, right? And then she shared with Christy Denner, who did it while she was working full time and in the 3rd trimester of her 2nd pregnancy, but she was inspired to do it. And because she did the uncommon thing, Courtney Girding, who's a rock star on our team, I haven't even scrolled through, I hope you're on here, Courtney, who like half of you on here are on here because of Courtney, right? So Courtney did the uncommon things, like she built this while she's working full time at a job that she enjoys. People ask her, like, why would you do that? She is committed to the goal. Kristen Jones is on here, right? Working full time with the mom. Like, you have a successful career. Why would you put extra time in this, right? She's in a community where this is what we do. And so she did it, right? All of you on here are part of this community. And by you stepping out and doing those new habits that are in alignment with your commitment, it not only gets you to your why, but it gives other people that permission to do those things as well. All right. Just think about that. Who else's why is waiting for you to commit to your why first? So important. We talked about clarifying your why. We also just talked about committing to your why. The third is to believe in your why. And when I say believe in your why, I don't just mean believe that it's possible. I mean, believe that it's happening right now in the present. It is happening. It is manifesting. It is coming to be. Right? It is absolutely, our tendency is to focus on why it's hard, why we can't, why it's not working, instead of believing that it's done. And it's just a matter of time of operating in the clarity of our why and our commitment and our new habits that it's coming, right? Like, we are living in our why. And in that case, you show up like it's done. Right? You're on this call as if you are the executive, the millionaire, the 5-star, the 10-star, whatever it is you're after. You show up with the energy and the commitment that that's already done. The next time we're able to get into a room together, you walk into the event, not with the energy of whatever's on your badge, but rather the energy of the next rank that you're going for, as if it's already done. That's how you operate in belief. I want to share a quick story about another executive on our team. I don't think Tasha's on here, but I remember when Tasha was brand new in our team, and she was the first person local to me to capture the vision. And I remember the first time she came to my house for a sip and sample launch party, she was late, and she shared the reason she was late is because she was looking for a house with a bunch of cars in the front. And in reality, that was one of those parties I had, one of quite a few, where nobody came. Okay, if that happened to you, type yes in the comments, right? If that happened to you, host a party, nobody came except for her. And later she was telling me, she's like, Carla, do you know why I was expecting those cars? I'm like, no, Tasha, why? She's like, Carla, it's just the way that you operated in belief. It's like the way, she told me the way that I posted, the way that I spoke, the way that I just showed up was as if there was already this massive team in place. I didn't even realize I was doing it. But in reality, it was just us. But because I believed first, my belief became her belief. And this is so fun, you guys. And together we filled the street in front of my house with cars. We had regular meetings in my house. And that's her and me together. And she became executive doing these parties in my house, month after month, week after week, together, because of belief. So when you believe, you get to share that with other people as well. Oh, another fun story about belief. Here in Savannah, Georgia, there is an airport like 10 minutes from my house. I'm curious, who in here is going for Fiji? Type Fiji in the chat if that is on your vision board, if you are like all in and going for Fiji. So love that, love your participation, guys, thanks. So Fiji is Top Achievers this year, right? So believe it or not, several years ago, Top Achievers, that trip was in Hilton Head, which is like the airport. It's like an hour from my house. And the airport's 10 minutes from my house. And so I realized at the time, I was, I think, director, 1-star silver. And so I wasn't qualifying for the event yet, obviously, but in my head, you know, I don't know any way to explain what I did, except that it was just this thing in my head that was like, it was belief. It was like, I belong with these people that are going to be at the airport. That's 10 minutes from my house. I'm going to go and meet them and say hi. So I did. I sat in the Savannah airport one morning for a couple hours. I set up my office. I took my laptop and I would watch every time people, it's a cute little airport with this neat little courtyard. So it was fun. But every time there was an Isagenix rock star walk through, I would go and say, hey, I'm a fan. I'm an Isagenix too. Congratulations. Can I have a selfie? And they did. But you know what was really fun was a couple years after this, I earned Top Achievers. And it was in Banff, Canada. And it was super fun getting to take pictures, say, hey, you remember that crazy girl who approached you in Hilton Head a couple of years back? Like, yeah, I remember that. That was me. Like, that was you? And now you're here. Like, yep, that was me. And now I'm here. So operate out of belief. Sometimes it has you do crazy things, but the point is, if you believe in where you're going, you're going to hang out with the right people and you're going to put yourself in the right situations. Next, I'd love for you to take a few minutes and look at these questions. I'm going to land on the last one and talk about it, but as I read through these, just type in the chat some things that come to mind, some phrases, some words, etc. But what changes would you make to feel truly fulfilled in your life? What would that take? If some comes to mind, just type it in. If you could improve your life or your lifestyle, what would that take? What would that look like? Right? If you designed your life, what would that look like? What would it feel like to live that life, that ideal day, that ideal week, that ideal year? What would that look like? Or if you had all the means necessary, where would you make the biggest changes? What comes to mind? Would you spend more time with certain people? Would you spend less time doing different things? Would you take up a new hobby? Would you donate to a new charity? Would you start something big? Would you just spend your time differently? What would that look like for you? And the thing that I want to, love that you guys keep typing it in, not needing to work, right? Like sometimes it's not a matter of like wanting to leave your job, but what if like you didn't have to go to that job? Maybe you'd enjoy it more, right? And if you choose to leave, it's okay. Have that plan B. And the last one on here, keep typing as things come to mind, like what excites you now? And I heard Peter Kelly ask this question at one of my very first celebrations. Love it. Move, plan B, security, travel. And she asked, what excites you now? And here's what I want to say is sometimes if you're struggling to find your why, like I did in the beginning, chances are you have a story about it, right? And a lot of times what I found people have stories around their why is that maybe it's not big enough, it's not good enough, it's not important enough, that it's maybe even selfish to go after that why, or that it's so big that it's not going to happen anyway, right? But here's the thing. It doesn't really matter what your why actually is. The only thing that matters is that it inspires you to take action now. If you can completely let go of what you think you should have as a why or what everyone else is expecting you to have for a why, let that go and like truly look inside, like what is it that inspires you? Like if you have big goals to replace an income, replace a spouse income, or build libraries and orphanages or give back in a big way, that's amazing. You should definitely go for that. But really, take a gut check. Is that inspiring you to take action today without excuse? If so, great. Like go for that. But if that is so big, see what is it that inspires you today? Maybe it is affording to pay for organic food for all the meals. Maybe it's some of the things that you've already typed in, right? If those things that you typed in are inspiring you to action today without excuse, then that's good. But maybe you want to buy a nice pair of shoes without feeling like you're robbing the family budget, or a new handbag, right? And we tell ourselves in our head, well, that's selfish. It's not selfish, right? If that is what inspires you to take action, then go for it. Because here's the thing, when you take action in a vehicle like we have in Isagenix, you can't help but help people, right? Somebody's going to get healthy by putting these products in their body. So go for that why. Or maybe it's just a vision of what your life looks like at that point. I remember in my very first company, one of the things at the very first event I went to, they had us like close our eyes and imagine like we just reached a goal and what do we feel like and who's around us. And I remember my vision was simply like being surrounded by a community of women, of girlfriends who were like legitimately like were happy for each other. And at the time, and this is a story I still am aware of and work with, is like this idea that I was bullied in middle school, and so like I still have this story sometimes that pops up like nobody likes me, I don't have friends. But here in my vision, I saw like this was a vehicle to have a community where we're all like genuinely happy for each other. It made me cry. It wasn't even a monetary goal, it's just that vision of, oh my gosh, this is a true community. Another one I remember attending a fundraiser banquet. Have you been to one of those? And they're so inspiring and amazing. And I remember at the time I was building this business, I was in the community, but I didn't have a lot of income yet. I remember they got to the bidding part, and that was a moment where like probably my ticket price was about as much as I could do. But they got to like the big donations of like 500, 800, 1,000, 2,000, like huge numbers. And there was a woman at my table who said something like, well, it looks like I'm in the wrong career. And I remember two things at that moment. One was for myself. I want to be one of the people who can give in a big way to something that moves my heart when it moves it spontaneously. And the second thing was, I want to create a movement where women especially feel empowered, not to make an income, not left out, like it's for everyone else. I want women to know, especially, and everybody, but especially seems to be like a mindset of women that we can make the money that we want. And it's not a selfish thing because it allows us to give, right? Money just amplifies what's there. If you have desire to give, it's just going to amplify that. Like I want to create a community of women where we're all lifting each other up in our money mindset and awareness. So that, I mean, so it's not just me. Like, what if we have like this whole table of women who actually like lived this lifestyle and we're giving this big way? I remember not long after that, I did attend a different banquet, totally different, cause. And I was moved to give, and I just earned a huge business or bonus for my Isagenix, and I gave it away. It's such, like, I remember the moment, I remember the feeling, I remember doing it because it was like, that was something that was part of my vision for what I wanted long term. And I got to experience that. So what is the why that excites you now? What is the thing that you're believing right now, right? If that adds some clarity, type in, what are some things that clarify your why for you? What is the why that excites you now? Okay. Here why this is important. Here's why it's so important to have a why that inspires action now. Because if you have like a why that's too big or too small or not important enough to you, it's going to lead you to make excuses. Everything, every challenge, every obstacle is going to be an excuse. But conversely, right now, the stronger your why is and the more obstacles that you simply change the story, use as a stepping stone now, it's going to strengthen your foundation for your future, right? I know this quite well. It's very meaningful to me. And many of you know my story because about 3 years ago, one of our twins at the age of 5, the age you saw her in that picture, at the end of her kindergarten year, was diagnosed with leukemia. And it was because by that point, I had overcome all those obstacles on the way that I had set the foundation for our freedom. I was able to step away from building a business actively for a couple of months and not lose income at all because of this beautiful residual and leveraged vehicle, right? Because I went after the why that was important to me, that inspired me to action, and I got the why that I went after the why that I wanted. When it really came down to it and we needed this, I had the why that we needed. Residual income saved us in so many ways. And it wasn't just the financial aspect. It was everything I learned along the way about overcoming obstacles, clarify, commit, believe, that helped us in our journey. This first picture is that first week when she is diagnosed. I knew right away it was important to clarify where we're going. We made a vision board of the places that she wanted to go when she felt better. We needed to commit. This pictures from like 3 years ago before there was deals about masks, but we just wore masks in the moments right before and during when her skin was being accessed. And in this particular moment was just moments before she was about to be sedated in a routine spinal tap. And they checked to make sure the cancer hadn't spread to her brain, and they give her some chemotherapy. And it was in moments like this, we truly knew we needed to commit continuously, commit to the outcome we wanted, and commit to being present with her and grateful for everything that was happening. And finally, believe and speak and show up as if it's done. This became especially important about 3 months into her diagnosis when she got a fever. She wasn't receiving the oxygen she needed, and she was sedated and put on a ventilator, and she was asleep in the ICU for 12 days. I am so thankful. On this Isagenix journey, I learned the power of belief and the power of words. In this picture is her asleep and her twin sisters holding her hand. And we told her sisters, you know, your sister's asleep, but she can hear you. Talk to your sister. So they talked to her, like, Clara, we can't wait for you to wake up. so we can go out and play again. And she did. She woke up and she walked out. This is her being embraced by her sisters as she walks out of that hospital room. This journey to my why prepared me to handle more than I ever imagined that I'd have to. Right? What if I'd settled for the school that was good enough, the life that was good enough, the version of me that was good enough? Right? I shuddered to think where we'd be in this situation without every single obstacle, seemingly insignificant now, that I overcame in the early journey to my why, turned into a stepping stone that laid the foundation for our freedom. We are so thankful. I'm happy to share she's doing well today. Most of you know this. She ended her chemo last year, and she's back in school and enjoying life as a normal 9-year-old for the most part. And we're so thankful. We have, a long road ahead, always keeping her healthy. But, something that was really fun was the day, not fun, but the day that she was diagnosed was actually 4 days before we were scheduled to leave for our very first cruise vacation as a family. And so needless to say, we missed that boat. But Isagenix gave us another chance. There's a promotion that came out soon after she was diagnosed. And I knew when they offered this that I was going to be on that boat, that we as a family were going to be in that boat. And I operated out of clarity, commitment, and belief. And we got to be on that boat. And that is her climbing that wall with the pink pants at the top of that wall. That was one of her big challenges. I mean, she's a warrior. And the way that this journey has helped her confidence and all my girls is something I'm so thankful for. So here's where I just want to wrap up, and friends, and share that I want you to go big and I want you to go fast. And some of you will in your journey with Isagenix. But if you find yourself either at the beginning or at a season, or you go fast and it slows down, if you find yourself in a season where you feel stuck or that the results aren't coming like you think they should, or it's just painful, you're feeling the pain of growth, I simply hope that you will remember my story and keep going. And just remember these parts, like when you clarify your why, when you commit to it and you continue to operate in that belief that it is done, you will be living your why eventually. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I'm going to wrap up the recording, but I'll hang on here a few minutes if you guys have questions. So proud of you. I love you so much. If we're not already connected, here's how to connect with me. I think most of you are, but feel free to screenshot. Love you all. Thank you. And we'll be back on this call. Hillary will be rotating trainers each week on each Monday night at the same time, same link.